Rebel Force Radio presents
Jedi cannot help what they are. Their compassion leaves a trail.
The fight is done. We lost. Stay hidden.
Where is he?
This is the RFR Obi-Wan Kenobi After Show. After Show.
You know, I cannot help but think I just watched a fantastic, or I am watching a fantastic Star Wars film, and I haven't even had to leave the house. This thing, for me, is delivering big time. Big time. I'm not going to tell anybody what to think here, but if you're one of those contrarians that's yet to be impressed by this show, we want you to call. I want to hear from you because I got to know. I got to know what it is you're exactly looking for. Because, look, nothing's perfect. No TV show, no film is perfect. Even the heralded episode 4, what kicked off everything, it's not perfect. In fact, some of its flaws are the things that we love the most about it, when you think about it. So nothing is perfect, but I do scratch my head in wonder. And I haven't really done a deep dive as, what the internet thinks. I don't really care, quite honestly. I care what I think. I care what the RFR team here thinks, and I care what the RFR listeners think, and that's why we do this after show. So glad you could be with us. Glad to be with you here on the Rebel Force Radio after show for Obi-Wan Kenobi, looking at part 3. This might be a first. It's certainly rare for me to be able to get more than one viewing of an episode before one of these after shows, but I couldn't stop myself. I just had such a good time watching it the first time. I had to experience it again. And then the whole family and we sat down and watched the first episode again. And so I have a few thoughts about that I want to share at the top. But anyway, we are here for the next hour and a half, 2 hours to recap part 3 of Obi-Wan Kenobi and maybe catch some of the things that we missed from parts 1 and 2. Your phone calls, we're monitoring the chat here, so please, don't be shy. Let us know your thoughts, your theories, and we'll get the number up on the screen in just a few minutes. But as I say, it's great to be with you. I'm so excited to be doing this. I'm enjoying the heck out of this, and I think somebody else is enjoying the heck out of it. I don't know. I don't want to put words in his mouth. He knows how to speak for himself. That's none other than my good friend and yours from Chicago, Jimmy Mack.
Hey, Jason. Hey, Star Wars fans. How am I feeling and what am I thinking about this episode? Look at my hand. It's still shaking.
You're trembling.
It's still shaking. Holy cow, what a morning I had this morning. Heart pounding, panting as I'm watching the TV. Seeing things I've only dreamed about as a Star Wars fan. Seeing things that only my action figures have acted out. Wow. For me, it's all about character. And we're going to the core of Star Wars here with these two characters, Ben Kenobi and Darth Vader, aka Obi-Wan and Anakin. We are going to the absolute core of Star Wars, 45 years in the making. And we saw some of it play out today. And I know what you're saying, Jason. I did peek online as the credits were rolling. I said, gosh, I really don't want to look at the internet today.
Right.
Because people are undoubtedly peeing in the pool. But I saw a lot of nitpicks. I choose not to nitpick at all. And I find myself challenged to nitpick this episode because to me, it's all about character. And that's what I mean. It's at the core of Star Wars. These are two of the most important characters, Obi-Wan Kenobi and Darth Vader. And to see them back in action again with all of the elements really working for me. And everything from the direction to the pacing to the sounds, the sights, and of course, the Sith. And it was all there. It was all there. And it gives you a lot to feed on for speculation about how the second half of the season is going to go. Isn't it crazy? We're already talking about the second half of the season
as we record too short. This. I feel like already it's going to be too short. But then again, at the same time, I think that it's that brevity is helping to give it its pace, and I really like the pace that this show is going.
Yeah. You know, it's funny to be talking about being halfway through the season when the season itself isn't even a week old as we record this.
Right.
But there's a lot to say about this episode, obviously, and I have a lot to say about it, and I can't wait to hear what you have to say about it, Jason, what our callers have to say about it, what you maniacs in the live chat have to say about it. And, you know, coming off of being at Galaxy's Edge just 2 days ago, I really found myself feeling like we were back there again. You know?
I felt the same way. Yeah. I felt like the Galaxy's Edge experience just continued. I mean, nothing makes you, and we're going to talk about it. In fact, we'll have more information at the end of the show about how we're going to sort of cap off Star Wars Celebration with you all. But I feel as though Galaxy's Edge gave me a closer relationship with Star Wars than I could have dreamed before it. And I know that there's some things that people haven't liked about Galaxy's Edge, and we'll give a full review, but it is immersive and it does feel like Star Wars. And I feel like I lived it for at least 3 different rides. And then I came home and watched this episode, and it's just been, I'm on a Star Wars high, man. I don't know about anybody else, but I'm on a high, and I don't want to come down. I'll be honest with you. I haven't felt this excited for a long time.
All day, I've just been sort of floating on a cloud. Really just enormously impacted by what I saw today. I saw the episode twice too, by the way. I think you said you did too, Jason. Yeah. So, and just feeling, like you said, feeling like we're still there. Thank you, Star Wars Celebration. And thank you, Galaxy's Edge, for really, adding so much fuel into 45 years of fandom. And just really rejuvenating me. I can't believe it. And then to come home and have an episode like this drop.
Yeah.
Wow. We should just dive right into it, get into the tail of the tape, talk about all the things that we saw and what we're thinking. And then I can't wait to get to the callers.
Right before we do the tail of the tape, I just want to mention, the way we experienced, I know, Jim, you saw the first 2 parts on a big screen. And I also know that you had Kyle Newman chatting in your ear, which at the same time. And then you came back to the hotel room and we watched it on the TV together. And it was a MacBook Pro connected into the TV, and we were kind of hacking the Disney Plus to make sure that we were able to see it on the screen. And I just remember feeling that the contrast was, the darks were really dark. It was hard to make out a lot of detail. And then I watched it again on the airplane on an iPad, and that wasn't a whole lot better. I finally rewatched parts 1 and 2 on my home system, where I'm the most comfortable, and I really feel that I can see and hear everything that I need to hear. And just a couple of things that are probably real obvious to others, but revealed to me is Reva is obviously in the beginning at the Jedi Temple. You see an adorable little African-American Padawan with a braid. And I think it's almost unmistakably Reva. And then I rewatched her interrogation of Owen and some of the dialogue where she talks about how she admires him because he takes care of his family. He's sticking up for his family. And then she goes on this tirade to the townspeople about how the Jedi have abandoned you. And this kind of dovetails to, our speculation about her actually being a Padawan that somehow escaped Order 66 and has some sort of endgame of vengeance, whether that vengeance is against Obi-Wan solely, or whether it's Obi-Wan and Vader, or it's some other combination. clearly I feel like that's her end game, and sort of seeing it in better lighting and in better environment really brought that home to me. So I think Reva is on a really good character trajectory. At least that's my take. And the fact that she seems different from the other Inquisitors is real obvious to me, because I think she truly is a Padawan plucked from the Jedi Temple, and the other two, I don't know what their origin is, but I don't think it's the same as hers.
They did make mention that the Inquisitors are former Jedi. They said that, didn't they?
They did, but I felt like they left room that wasn't the only case. That wasn't the only way that they found. I think they said, I thought they said that many of the Inquisitors are former Jedi. But I could be wrong about that. But I felt at the time that it wasn't definitively only former Jedi.
Well, we'll see how that all plays out. I don't think it should be definitively only former Jedi, because as we hear in this episode, part 3, that the Empire is hunting all Force sensitives, even children. It doesn't matter if they're Jedi or not. So everyone's a target. Anyone who taps into the Force disappears. No one sees them again.
Yeah.
Hey, can I address something before we really dive into our conversation? Because I want to make something very clear. I received a comment from Adam on YouTube, and this is referring to last week's show when we were talking about the clone trooper who was panhandling.
Yes.
And remember that?
Yeah.
And I said, I saw one outside the hotel. Okay. I think my sense of humor may have not been interpreted correctly by a guy like Adam. And I want to explain that comment. I wasn't talking about homeless vets. I wasn't talking about veterans. I was talking about cosplayers. That's what I was joking about, the convention being there and seeing a guy in armor laying out on the sidewalk. I was just joking about cosplayers. Okay.
Right.
I wasn't making any commentary on homeless vets. I understand there's a huge population of vets on the streets because the VA isn't treating them for their mental illness. And it's not a joke to me that 22 vets a day commit suicide. And a lot of these guys are on the streets. Here at Rebel Force Radio, we stand with respect for all veterans. And I just want to make sure there is no misinterpretation about what my joke was about. I was joking about cosplayers, not veterans.
Of course.
So,
and thanks for saying that. And we have so many veterans that have listened to this show over the years and have reached out. And, we've been sort of, for many of them over the last 15 years, sort of a taste of home for them and a connection to, geeking out with their fellow Star Wars fans. And so, that's a relationship that we take very, very seriously, both as Rebel Force Radio and as individuals. So I didn't take it that way, Jim. And it's, it's all in the ears of the beholder, right? How people interpret things, but I certainly,
right. I want to make that 100% clear.
All right, well, let's get into the tail of the tape here. We are talking about the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. This is part 3. Original air date, June 1st, 2022, directed by Deborah Chow. We've got a 4th name on the roster of writers. We have Joby Harold joining Hannah Friedman, Hossein Amini, and Stuart Beatty. Apologies if I'm saying those names incorrectly. And now this is, the way Wikipedia reports this, but 9 years of BBY. And we have the, at the beginning of part 1, we see 10 years after the events of Revenge of the Sith, 9 years BBY. So we're looking at a total of 19 years. But, time is kind of a squishy thing in Star Wars, but that would put Luke and Leia at about 19 at the time of episode 4.
Yeah, that's been pretty well established, I guess, on the recent timeline. It's moved around a little over the years, but I think 19 is what they're settling on. And with the Kenobi series clearly being set 10 years after Revenge of the Sith, according to the graphic that appeared on screen on the first episode, 10 years later, after the Order 66 massacre.
Yeah.
Then 9 years before A New Hope.
Right. All right. I mean, this episode really starts off with a bang. That sequence where we see Vader coming together. Now that was teased in the teaser, appropriately enough. Mm-hmm. But man, you really get a sense, Jim, at least I did, of the suffering that's going on with this guy, the physical suffering. And as I was starting to feel sorry for him, and I really was at the way they opened the episode, and then of course the way they closed the episode, maybe you're feeling a little less pity for him. I mean, just the tubes and in the back to tank, and he's just got holes, cut in him from every direction, and that kind of costume that he wears is almost just like a big black bandage covering up all the sores and the destruction of his physical form. And I thought it was even a much more impactful representation of the monster that Vader has become, even more so than what they showed us in Revenge of the Sith, to be honest.
And in Rogue One.
Right.
I don't think we've ever seen Vader more terrifying than the Vader we see in this episode. In anything, any medium, animation, comics, novels, find me a more brutal Vader than the one presented in this episode. Wow. No signs of the light, no signs of hesitation, no signs of any sort of emotional connection. He just wants Kenobi wiped out. Yeah. And it's a very one-track mind. It has to be this way. We have to be at a place when this season ends and Ben is convinced Vader is more machine than man. And I think that we're well on the way to fully convincing him of that, because we've never seen a more brutal Vader than the one in this episode.
When you bring up that line, I think that's really important to talk about, because there has been, since this show, started being talked about, and Kathleen Kennedy mentioned the rematch of the century. People saying, well, this doesn't line up to the continuity. And you bring up that line, and I think it's an important one. He's more machine, no, than man. How would he know that? Based on if it was true, if their last encounter truly was Revenge of the Sith, episode 3, how would he know that? Oh, I guess you could look at, the HoloNet or whatever. But I think this is a much better way to give that line of dialogue more weight. I've
never liked the idea of Vader being a personality, like a media personality,
right? Appearing
on the HoloNet, making public appearances, occasionally opening up for Kiss. But no, I threw in that last one. That's not out of universe. That's not in universe.
It's Jimmy Mac headcanon.
It could be. We talked about this last week. Put Gene Simmons in Star Wars, but I like the idea of him just being something that lurks in the shadows, and he's almost like the boogeyman,
Yeah. Yes.
And the legend. It's not really certain if he's real or legend or what have you. So that's the Vader I've always preferred. Now he's been depicted differently over the years in different types of Star Wars storytelling, but here in live action, I think they should really make sure they maintain the darkness, the shadowy nature, the mystery of Vader.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could see how, in a galaxy where the Jedi are all but extinct, that a figure like Vader that comes in and just absolutely wreaks havoc in the darkness of night would, that would be relegated to mystery, would be relegated to rumor. So not definitive, it's kind of like how you don't want to necessarily, outside of the Adam West show, you don't want to see Batman just hanging out in the light of day, going into the the police commissioner's office. You do want Vader to be a mysterious figure in the shadows. Right? Like you say, he's not a media figure. He's not a personality. I don't want him showing up on the, HoloNet's version of Meet the Press to discuss the politics of the Empire. There was one real chilling moment that I I made a note of is, as Obi-Wan is dealing with the news that was delivered to him by Reva at the end of part 2, he's trying to, again, in vain, to commune with Qui-Gon, and he says, "Master, he's coming." He senses. I mean, it's almost like a horror movie, that the monster is unleashed and he's coming for him. And I thought that was such a cool line. It really was. And there's a lot of, I think, homages to like horror movies and not thrasher. What's the word I'm like? Slasher kind of films. It is very slasher-esque. He has a Michael Myers way of just always, showing up. He doesn't have to run. He doesn't have to do anything. And he's just always there when you turn around.
Yeah. Almost like Frankenstein too, in a way.
Or yeah. Like Frankenstein.
Yeah. So a lot of great things happening all throughout this episode. Most of the action, most of the action happens on Mapuzo, which is a mining planet. The only other situations we see away from there is at that Imperial Citadel where the Inquisitors are hanging out. And, it was kind of a mystery to us last week, and I was 100% certain that there was some sort of bait and switch going on, but gee whiz, it looks like Rupert Friend's Grand Inquisitor is really 6 feet under. I don't think he's coming back.
It does appear that way. And Vader confirms that Grand Inquisitor is a title. It's not a singular personality. It is a title. And Reva's vying for it. He offers it to Reva, or promises it to Reva if she can bring Kenobi in. Jim, I thought the whole sequence with Vader, being assembled and then, sitting on his throne in his castle on Mustafar. I wasn't a big, and I'm still not a big comic book fan or reader, Star Wars comic book reader. But man, there were moments where I thought I was watching the greatest Star Wars comic book come to life, because these images outside of Rogue One are things that you would only see in comic books. You'd only see Vader sitting on his throne in his castle on Mustafar and in things like the tie-in material.
Yeah, this is definitely stuff I've been wanting to see for a long time. Like I said, this is stuff only my action figures have been up to.
Right.
And here they are doing it in live action. I love the return to Mustafar, hanging out in Vader's castle a little more, going into his throne room for the very first time. We've never seen Vader's throne room. And it was all just really excellent. The voice work from James Earl Jones. I think they put a little special sauce into
I wanted to ask
mix.
you about that. I'm very curious because I thought that this was a sharper sounding Vader than we heard in Rogue One, than we heard in even Revenge of the Sith.
Yes.
It had a point to it that felt very original trilogy. Very original trilogy.
It's the respeecher technology, which comes out of the Ukraine, of all places, where a whole nother war is going on. But the respeecher technology was first introduced to voice Mark Hamill in the season 2 finale of The Mandalorian. And it's sort of like artificial intelligence working with audio to create certain voices. And I believe the respeecher technology is in play here in this episode with the James Earl Jones voice, because it sounds just like he did in Empire.
Yes.
Just like he did. I mean, it's outrageously unbelievable. You can hear all of the inconsistencies when you hear James Earl Jones as Darth Vader in Star Wars Rebels.
Yes.
And like you said, Jason, in Rogue One, by Rogue One, they had tweaked it more. But this was, turning the clock back 42 years, man. Right. I mean, it was really wild. So I didn't comb the credits at the end looking for any sort of shout out to respeecher. And I don't even know if that's even necessary. Disney probably bought the company for all we know. But if they did use it, there most likely is a credit there at the end for that. I mean, really, just I don't know what to say about this episode. When I think about all of these little touches that they added to it to make it perfect, it for a Star Wars TV show, you got to be kidding me. And yeah, sure, the budget shows itself every once in a while that, hey, we are watching a TV show. This wasn't the showdown between Anakin and Obi-Wan in Revenge of the Sith with volcanoes blowing up all over them and all of that really epic backdrop. This is a television budget. They were fighting in a quarry. The background shouldn't be important to us because it is such an important character moment. And George Lucas used to think this way. He purposefully downplayed the wardrobe in the original trilogy because he wanted the mythology to be character focused, based on relationships and families and human interaction. And of course, all the other cool stuff like starships, explosions, but everything was all beat up, it was all used. It was unattractive to the people in universe. And it was exotic and cool for us, but he purposefully downplayed the wardrobe, the costumes, all the characters wore, because he didn't want it to be about some elaborate getup these guys are wearing. He felt like that distracted from the character moments, that distracted from the dramatic tension. And this episode of Kenobi is loaded with character interaction and dramatic tension. And I think it's because we're not being distracted by craziness going on in the background. It's not always necessary to tell a story effectively, to be filling in every corner of the screen with mayhem. Look at the original Star Wars, A New Hope, 1977. I mean, some of those sets today look, there's nothing special about them, but the characters and the situations they're in and their interactions, that's what makes that movie so special.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I think that taking these characters, and that's really what I was thinking about the entire time. And some of the criticism that I've seen about, all the effects or the budget or whatever, I get, when I go back and think about it in that frame of mind, okay, I see it, but I was so wrapped up in the story, in the tension and the performances. I mean, Ewan McGregor, you talk about a leading man. He is a leading man through and through. He absolutely anchors this series with with such a profound gravitas. I love it. And not just him, but all of the characters. I think the acting in this is stupendous. You mentioned the Grand Inquisitor a little bit ago, and I still feel like the room or the door is open to there being another Grand Inquisitor by the time Rebels rolls around. So I don't think that Rupert Friend is necessarily has to be the same guy. I am struggling with that one a little bit. I just don't feel like Filoni would contradict himself to that degree. Because of course he knows, but it's starting to look that way. It's starting to look that way.
It makes me question just how set in stone is animation canon. If the Inquisitor can just be wiped out like that while he is still supposed to exist. Well, Star Wars Rebels, that happens 5 years prior to A New Hope.
Right. So 4 years from now.
So this guy should have still been around. What an odd coinkydink that the Grand Inquisitor just a few years later is going to be another pasty guy from the same species. It's just like, wow, what a coincidence. Out of all the species in the galaxy.
Right. Hey, we'll see what happens. Mapuzo, I wanted to point out, too, that there was that moment when Obi-Wan sees the specter of Anakin, and Anakin a la Revenge of the Sith. Man, did I think they were going to roll into a Clone Wars flashback when he was talking. I really did. I thought, because he was talking about how the planet used to be more lush until the Empire took over and burned it all up. And I thought that he was going to lapse into a flashback. I'm still waiting on that flashback. But Jim, after this, I think, maybe we're not going to get that flashback, because
I still think we are.
Do you?
Yeah, I mean, just seeing Hayden like that, pre-scarred Anakin with the Jedi robe on, I think that's just a precursor. I think that's going to open up the door to bigger things, for sure. It just gives you shivers, though, when you think about that scene. I mean, to see Obi-Wan, having that vision, and we feel what he feels when he sees that. As audience members, you can't help yourself. It just gives you chills. This whole episode gave me a lot of moments where I felt like it was just spine tingling, It did make me laugh, though, when Leia and Ben were masquerading as Orden and Luma.
Yes.
And she says, say hello, Father. And there's a pregnant pause. And of course, we're all waiting for hello there.
Yeah. It didn't happen, though.
Hello. I hope it never happens in this show. I really don't.
It subverted expectations.
That's becoming kind of a.
It is.
I don't want Obi-Wan to become. I don't want him to become some caricature.
Yeah, he's not a meme.
What'd you think of Freck, voiced by Zach Braff?
Frickin', he's joined the ranks of the other Frickins, although he's frickin' Freck. He seemed like such a nice guy. Okay, so you brought him up. This is going to be my nitpick, and this is not new. I've had this throughout Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett. I want my aliens subtitled. I want them speaking alien tongues. I don't like colloquial dialects with my Star Wars aliens. I really don't.
Yeah, it sucks the exotic quality out of them.
Yeah.
And it would be fine if he was speaking in some alien tongue and there was the subtitles. It would be fine, I guess. I did like seeing that character interact with the Imperials.
Oh, yeah.
And some of that, the nuance of that interaction might have been flushed down the toilet if you had him speaking in an alien dialect with subtitles. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I thought it was a fun character, and it's just interesting to note how the Imperial effect on the galaxy is being interpreted differently by some, and being embraced by some and rejected by others.
Right.
And we see a few examples of that throughout this episode. And this is always a part that really interests me, how the Empire is really able to sink its teeth into the galaxy. And I like seeing that process after being so familiar with the old Republic, or the Republic in the prequels, and then so familiar with the Empire in the original trilogy. I like that transition period. I like to see people suddenly becoming aware that the wool is being pulled over their eyes, and they rise up to take action, or they fall in step and they appreciate what the Empire is doing. Even little Leia is under the impression that the Empire helps people.
Yes.
Because her father is a member of the Imperial Senate.
And boy, what a great job Bail must be doing. I know I'm not necessarily, not that I try, but I mean, my own personal beliefs and politics are shared at the supper table. So my kids know where I stand. So for Bail to be able to, really, I mean, rein it in, even around his own daughter. You would think that she would have that rebellious spirit. She would know that there's a fight, an internal fight, but he's keeping her protected from all of that. Nothing to draw attention to her. In fact, it's alluded to in I think the first episode, where she's not even allowed off planet. I think that's one of the things that her cousin says to her. So
very sheltered.
Very sheltered. So yeah, we see Freck, and he's sort of falling lockstep into the totalitarian regime, whereas we see Tala, the spy, the rebel spy. I'm going to call her a rebel spy. I mean, she is. She's a rebel spy, which I think gives us a little glimpse into what we might be seeing more of in Andor. We see more people like Tala, showing up wearing the Imperial officer's uniform, but actually working subvertly, perhaps on this underground railroad type thing that they're using for Jedi. But so now she rejects it. She gets involved. She supported the Empire at first, and then she sees what they're really like, and she's out of there.
I don't think she's out of there. Not yet. Not if she's still walking around wearing that uniform.
Well, she's not working for the Empire yet. My hunch is.
Yes, she is. She said she joined and she wanted to serve the Empire and make a difference. And she saw from within what they were all about. Now she's still there with stormtroopers, commanding them. She's still working as a commanding officer, but she's like a double agent.
Double agent. She's a spy. Yeah. She's a spy. Yeah. I agree with that. Yeah.
She's a turncoat is what she is, and she's using her position to share information. She's an informant probably, but here she is also working with their underground railroad. So she's much more involved than just turning over information to the rebellion. She's actually helping them with that underground railroad. They call it the Path.
Yes.
And so she's helping guide.
Not to be confused with The Way, which, by the way, The Way was brought up by Obi-Wan Kenobi in this episode. He talked about The Way. And something else that I thought was cool, I was great.
It's right, when he was reading that inscription on the wall.
Exactly.
The Way.
Yes.
Oh, I should have wrote that inscription down. What did it say? It said something like you can only see the path if you close your eyes. This is the way.
Yeah, something along those lines. Yeah.
Wow, I wonder if we're going to run into any Mandalorians.
Well, that was Quinlan Voss's inscription. So Quinlan Voss, certainly a fan favorite of the expanded universe, the classic expanded universe, now Legends, is alluded to. Well, not just alluded to, he's directly referenced in this episode.
Have you heard fan speculation that Quinlan Voss could be hiding within Ned B's droid plating? That there's actually, because it sure looks like there's a guy in there.
I was just caught up thinking, is Ned B like a Ned Beatty reference or tribute? I mean, when I hear Ned B, I'm thinking of Ned Beatty. I'm thinking of Deliverance. I'm thinking all kinds of things I don't want to be thinking about. But no, I hadn't heard that theory that maybe Quinlan Voss is in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Leia's treating him with the her characteristic respect that she has for droids, and Tala says, he's just a mining droid. He's not even programmed to speak.
Yeah,
he's a laborer.
A lot of people are thinking that Quinlan Voss is in there though, because I don't know. Surprise! I think he would have revealed himself already, though. I mean, they were in the safe house.
Well, and he pulls Obi-Wan out of the flames at the end. So
he does do that. Right. So maybe we'll see a big reveal in part 4.
I think people are remembering, the Star Wars Visions, where we had the Jedi that was inside. Didn't we have a Jedi that was inside a droid, or inside a costume as the other Jedi were gathering, and it was to kind of get the Sith together in one of the Star Wars Visions? There was a Jedi that was hiding inside of a droid.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway.
That was so long ago.
Talk about bombshells. Family of the Jedi. Wowie, wow.
Yeah.
First of all, you got Leia probing Ben about her real mother. So I keep waiting for a moment. We know that Leia, in Return of the Jedi, says that she has, when Luke asks her about did you ever see your mother? Or what do you remember of your mother, your real mother? And she's, just memories, visions, I guess. She was very beautiful, but sad. Makes me wonder if we're going to see Ben or someone show a hollow image of Padme to Leia so that she has that memory. Possible. But the real bombshell is that Obi-Wan Kenobi believes he had a brother. He has memories of a baby. He has memory of his father's hands, of his mother's shawl. So family, appropriately enough, playing a big part in this, especially great character moments between Obi-Wan and Leia there.
That would be Obi to Kenobi to be his little brother.
Right.
Or Ken Kenobi. I don't know. I haven't made up my mind yet. But I mean, that has to be some level of foreshadowing. That's not just a little entry for Wikipedia. That is going to be something that I predict will pay off. We will see a reunion between Obi-Wan Kenobi and his kid brother at some point. Will it happen this season? I don't know. There have been hints about a season 2 of Kenobi. Ewan McGregor has certainly spoken openly about how he would love to do it. And now we're getting word that Obi-Wan Kenobi's debut was the most watched show in the history of Disney Plus. So I'm certain that all the suits at Disney and Lucasfilm are trying to figure out a way they can keep milking that cow. And if Ewan McGregor is on board, well, it's only a matter of time before an announcement about season 2 will be made. But let's just see where things go with season 1. I mean, maybe they've painted themselves into a corner and made it really hard for them to continue the story after season 1. But based on the comments, I think also Deborah Chow may have said something too. So, I mean, based on the comments, you can expect that we're probably already in pre-production on season 2 of Kenobi. But let's just see how it all plays out first.
Yeah. Let's see. And look, we know that there's a finite number of adventures that Obi-Wan Kenobi can have in between episodes 3 and 4, especially since this one is set 10 years after, though it's not impossible that we could see something that took place before this. We'll see. But, before everybody gets all their continuity panties in a wad, let's just watch where we end up at the end of this season. Bale's contact, Tala Durith. Again, I just want to mention it gave me or gave me maybe foreshadowing of what we might see, the type of espionage that we might be seeing with the Andor series. And then Obi-Wan's reaction when he realizes that Vader is there. Vader's presence is so near, that major disturbance he feels where he's just absolutely rocked with, anxiety, fear, whatever it is. He's feeling every emotion. I feel like all at once.
He sort of doubles over.
Yeah.
Like he did when he felt Alderaan explode. He's just like, oh my God, I'm going to hurl. And then he goes outside and, he looks out the window and he gets his first glimpse of Vader.
This
he can't
monster coming. Yeah, this monster. There's one moment when, and a lot of people are talking about this, when Vader is just going through and, he pulls this father out of his home and is strangling him. And then the kid comes running out, like probably a teenage kid, no, don't do this to my father or whatever. And then he just throws the kid down and snaps his neck like nothing. And there is a reaction from Reva. It's very quick, but there's a reaction from Reva where she's seemingly repulsed by this. And I'm wondering if she's having flashbacks of the raid on the Jedi Temple, that this is maybe going a step too far. Possible.
I didn't catch that. It's pretty brutal. Brutal. That kid was clearly a teenager, and Vader snaps his neck while he's torturing his dad.
Yeah.
And just leaves the mom there to clean up the mess. Rough stuff, man. Again, as I said, we've never seen a Vader this brutal. They're really taking off all the restraints on how they depict him in this episode, and he was doing it just to smoke Obi-Wan out,
right?
There was a purpose.
Yes,
there was a method to his madness. He wasn't doing it just for laughs.
Right, great point.
He wasn't doing it just because there were people there. Why not? He was doing it to purposefully smoke out Obi-Wan. And that's a big thing they play on, these Inquisitors, the Jedi compassion, all of that stuff. And we've seen several examples already in these first 2 episodes.
They say they expose themselves through their compassion.
Yes. Yeah. And so, I mean, again, showing off the brutality of the Empire, like we need any more samples of what makes them brutal. But here's yet another one, is just people are so dispensable, you know. It's just, it doesn't matter. You know, they just exterminate more than they govern, it seems. And wherever they go, they just leave a path of destruction.
Yeah. You know, there's been talk online, and you know, initially I want to say laughed. I guess I reacted as if it was kind of a humorous moment, but Obi-Wan, he draws the lightsaber. You know, Vader confronts him. The lightsaber ignites, and you think the two are going to go at it. He closes that lightsaber, and he just runs. He's out of there. And I've been wrestling with this because, look, I just want to make this kind of clear, is that I was and still am somewhat critical of the story behind Book of Boba Fett. It was something that I didn't walk away saying that it was a feeling that it was a great story, that it needed to be told, etc. Was thrilled to be back in those environments and all that. But when I watched the Galaxies or the behind the scenes of Book of Boba Fett on the Disney Gallery series, I walked away with it saying, look, I can certainly agree or disagree with some of the methods and whether or not the story was compelling and I really responded to it. But the one thing that, and I think it's very important for us to realize, this stuff doesn't happen by accident. This is not willy-nilly. This stuff is in pre-production for a long time. The scripts are gone over time and time again. You got a guy like Ewan McGregor acting as executive producer. Nothing I don't think is a result of laziness. I really don't believe that. Again, I'm not saying this is beyond criticism. Criticize all you want. Did you respond to it? Is it something that you wanted to see or want to see again? That's fine. But I don't think this stuff happens by accident. Obi-Wan Kenobi running away from Darth Vader was not just to draw out the battle, was not just to kill time, as I think some are saying. I have a couple of thoughts about this. One, Jim, you brought it up earlier, Frankenstein, lumbering. Vader is not quick on his feet. What would Obi-Wan's only defense be in the face of something like that? Get the hell out of there. Run away. Mm-hmm. Vader might be many things, but fast he's not. The other thought that occurred to me is Obi-Wan is clearly scarred emotionally, deeply about the last conflict they had. A lightsaber duel did not work out real well the last time they met. So is Obi-Wan looking for a different path, a different way to defeat Vader / Anakin? Possibly. So I think when you look at it under, in those two ways, this isn't just, him turning tail and running. I think it's a lot more complicated than that.
Also, something else that I thought was maybe he's trying to pull Vader away from the area where that safe house was, which led to that underground tunnel where Leia was. And he was trying to buy Leia a little more time. That's the only,
that's a good
I mean, your explanation is just as good. I mean, it's not like Vader is fleet of foot, but he sure does cover ground really quickly. It's kind of hard to explain. He shows up in the shadows a lot.
Yeah.
And he does manage to get around pretty quickly. But Ben running, just a stall tactic, probably buy himself more time. And Ben, Vader says, the years have taken their toll on you, man.
Yeah,
You're not. Vader was very unimpressed with Ben. I think that they will have another showdown before the season is over. It almost demands it,
Right.
You can't go right in the middle of it. I mean, this is the middle of the thing. It's the big payoff will be when they have another showdown and Ben is the victor. And he leaves Anakin there again, doesn't kill him. But they have some sort of face-to-face confrontation as Vader is talking to Ben through the shattered helmet, a la The Force Unleashed or a la the season 2 finale of Star Wars Rebels with Ahsoka and Vader. where he talks, he's got the mask, he's kind of busted up and stuff. I think it's inevitable that we're going to see that.
Right.
Also, Ben Kenobi survives and finds his way back to Tatooine. And the way he does that is by defeating Vader. I thought going into this series, we were going to see Vader beat the crap out of Ben left and right like he did in this episode, part 3. But I really believe that Ben is going to dig deep. He's going to finally connect with Qui-Gon. That's going to give him the strength to face Vader one more time. And Ben will be victorious, but yet he still will not kill Anakin. And there might be a reason for that. Maybe, I don't know what the reason could be. Because obviously the spirit of Obi-Wan and Yoda, they were both really trying to convince Luke that he needed to kill Vader. When Luke said he couldn't do it, Obi-Wan said, then the Emperor's already won. Right. So there's nowhere in there is there compassion for Vader, but yet he will survive, obviously, this series. And so does Ben.
Yeah.
So somebody fails to do the job again.
Yeah.
A second. And I was really, really happy that Vader confronted Ben with, "You should have killed me when you had the chance."
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
There's some great dialogue. I want to give them kudos because I thought all of Vader's dialogue felt very Vader in this episode. There were no lines that I thought, oh, I can't imagine Vader saying that. I thought it was really well done. Obviously, having that super authentic, James Earl Jones in his prime voice made a lot, helped. But boy, you talked about him sort of toying with Obi-Wan. It just was it was just total cat and mouse, wasn't it? I mean, the way you see a cat playing with a mouse, letting him run a little bit and then pouncing on him again. Vader believed he had the upper hand the entire time, and by all accounts, he did.
Sure.
And then the line,
of course he did.
"You cannot run, Obi-Wan," reminded me of, "You can't hide forever, Luke," in Return of the Jedi. But to drag him through go ahead.
The fire. All right, well, we'll get to that in a second. Yeah. But before we got there, we did also see Ben use steam to stop Vader.
Oh, yeah, right. All that was missing was the, oh!
Yeah. Yeah, that's really his arch foe is steam.
Well, it steams up those eyepieces,
Maybe that's it.
Which I was worried. I got to tell you, at Celebration, they had the brand new Black Series Vader Deluxe helmet, and those eyes were very red on this new edition. And I was worried. I thought, we're going to have red-eyed Vader in Obi-Wan. It does show up a little bit here and there, but for the most part, they're the dark eyes. They're not.
Yeah, I don't like red-eyed Vader. I don't know why that's being embraced. George Lucas never intended for Vader to have red eyes. It just there was kind of an amber lens they used on that original helmet, and sometimes the light would catch it, and there'd be a little bit of a red reflection. So everybody was, not everyone, but some people were so desperate to tie that into canon somehow, and they spent some time doing that with Rogue One and what have you. Even in Revenge of the Sith, when they lower that helmet onto Vader's face, you see the eyepieces. It's red,
Yeah, right.
It's red, but I don't think it's ever been meant to be a fashion statement on the helmet.
No, I think they went overboard on a couple of action figures and then on this new Black Series helmet. So, and that Black Series helmet is in direct, promotion of, or a tie-in to the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. Oh. It's a re-release. And so when I saw it at the Hasbro booth, I thought, oh man, we're going to get red-eyed Vader, but I was glad it wasn't over the top. The Reva seeing the Jedi symbol there at the, in that hideout of Tala's, she has a very conflicted look on her face. I can't quite tell what her read is on that. If that was, if she was angry, if she was nostalgic, if she was, I don't know. And I think that, that the actress she is providing those layers in her performance. I really do. I think that she's very, very good in terms of some of her facial expressions and showing that there's more than meets the eye. And what I think some people might be seeing as a very cartoonish or maybe simplistic style is I believe that Reva is playing a role. Reva is playing a role. There's a bigger game that she has in mind, and maybe she's not doing it very well, but I think that she has ulterior motives that we've only just begun to sort of see a glimpse of. And that's why she has this fish out of water kind of, vibe, I feel like.
The character obviously shows a lot of ambition, and it seems like she does have a plan. And her plan involves getting a hold of Obi-Wan Kenobi, which, I didn't know how often I still don't know, how often do these Inquisitors come in contact with Darth Vader? I think it's very rare. And obviously the fifth brother seemed very surprised and maybe even a little impressed that Reva had direct conversation with Darth Vader. So that seems uncommon, like
Yes.
with him to be marching through that mining town in this episode with 3 Inquisitors there and a bunch of stormtroopers. That to me seems to be an uncommon occurrence, that for the Inquisitors to actually be with Vader. I don't think they're actually with him very often,
Right,
but maybe
right.
he's the one who recruits them. I'm not 100% sure on that. I sure would like to learn more about the Inquisitors.
Me too.
We've been exposed to them in Star Wars Rebels, but none of those characters had any substance. Not a single one of those Inquisitor characters on Rebels had any substance. They were goons and nothing more than goons. That's why I was so surprised when Rupert Friend was asked countless numbers of times, did you watch Star Wars Rebels? And he would say no.
Mm-hmm.
That also might be part of Lucasfilm trying to prepare us for the fact that he and the character in Rebels are 2 entirely different characters. I don't know.
Right.
Because they sure seem to be pushing that question with Rupert an awful lot. They did it on the streaming stage out in Anaheim. They brought it up, and this is an official Lucasfilm production. So I don't think that there's some sort of signaling they're sending us with Rupert and the Inquisitor. And did he watch those episodes? But removing all of that, all of my conspiracy theories or whatever, removing all of that, Rupert Friend didn't watch Rebels, and people seemed upset about that. And I couldn't understand why, because the Grand Inquisitor in Rebels seemed to be a very flimsy, one-dimensional character. He had no substance. So I don't know what Rupert Friend would have taken out of the experience of watching Rebels. Now, here they are presenting us with these Inquisitors. I am becoming a fan of the fifth brother. I admit it. I love his snaky style. He's all like, you Dr. Vader. He's really like the whispering and intensity. I think Sun Kang is doing an amazing job playing this character. Again, he's presenting in a very one-dimensional way, though.
Yes.
With Reva, we are getting an Inquisitor with some substance. She is actually bringing substance to the Inquisitorium.
Yeah, she's not a caricature. That's the thing. And the others are
right.
Like you said.
She's not a goon.
Right.
There's layers of significant layers of substance to this character. So I haven't really understood a lot of the complaints I've been hearing about Moses, but I think her character is emerging, and with each episode, I find the character becoming more compelling. And we're just still starting to peel away the early layers. And as far as their acting goes, I've never seen Moses Ingram very much before this past week out in Anaheim, but I saw her being interviewed and stuff, and she's nothing like the third sister. So that tells me she's a damn good actor, because I don't see her in this role. I think she is fully immersed in this performance.
Yeah.
And I like what I've been seeing.
I'm going to reserve my judgment for the end, but if she ends up just being another Inquisitor, then I'm going to say, yeah, it didn't work for me, but I don't think that's going to be the case. She's different. She's supposed to be different, and there's a whole method to this. Last thing I want to mention.
Prediction. Can I make one prediction?
Please.
So it's on the record before I forget?
Yes.
I'm going bold here, and I'm trying to predict an ending for the show. And like I said, I think Ben and Vader are going to have a showdown, and Ben is going to get the best of Vader, and Vader's going to limp away from that encounter with each other. And so Vader doing what Vader does, he's going to have a fall guy. He's going to make somebody suffer the blame for his failure. And I think it'll be Reva. She'll end up with a lightsaber through the gut, or maybe even decapitated.
Yeah.
That would be, that would be par for the course for this series.
Right.
Just cut her head off.
Yeah, I think she's going to sacrifice herself for Obi-Wan. That's what I think is going to happen.
Okay.
I think she's going to sacrifice herself so that Obi-Wan can leave. I think that she's going to find out about the prophecy and how important it is for Leia, who she's likely in custody of as of the end of this episode. All right, two things real quick.
Yeah.
The flames, dragging Kenobi through the flames was huge. Talk about an eye for an eye. That really was, you've only begun, your suffering is only your pain has just begun, he says.
There's the cat with the mouse.
It wasn't lost on me that Vader snuffed out the flames once and then was unable to snuff them out again. I struggle with that one a little bit. Why wasn't he able to snuff the flames out in order? But then there's also the aspect, it's kind of reminds me a little bit of when we see Vader on Hoth. I know it's a different situation, but we see Vader on Hoth as he shows up and he's looking for the Millennium Falcon and the princess and the smuggler. And he watches as the Falcon takes off and he just sort of stands there.
Yeah.
And it's sort of this resigned, it doesn't shake his fist to the heavens and say, I'll get you next time. There's almost a confident, okay, touche, I'll get you next time. Yeah. He's not in any hurry. He doesn't seem in any great hurry. But again, I did struggle with that one. That's a nitpick. My two nitpicks really are, one, I want to see the aliens speak with subtitles and in exotic tongues. And then Obi-Wan getting away with the ignition of the flames from Tala when he was able to snuff the flames, before. But then again, I go back to my lesson that I learned in watching Disney Gallery, which is this stuff is it's not by accident. It's excruciatingly detailed. Again, we can disagree all we want about the decisions that they make, but to say that this is willy-nilly and it's like, I don't know why he doesn't snuff them out. One time he does, one time he doesn't. We'll find out why. And it could be because of conflict in Vader. I don't know. He certainly didn't it seemed like Jim when he was snapping necks of teenagers that he had any real conflict inside of him.
I heard some people say, why didn't he just walk through the flames to get to Obi-Wan? My response to that naturally is, well, he didn't want to catch on fire again.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
He's already been burned once.
Yeah.
He's not want to be burned again. Plus that cape, that cape would just go right up.
Oh, can I ask you about Jabeam? Is that that's an established Star Wars planet?
Shoot. Is Jabeam established? It sure sounds familiar.
It did sound familiar to me, and I meant to Wikipedia this thing.
Yeah. It's probably from the comics. It's my guess. Maybe even going back to Dark Horse. Let me pull up some information.
While you're doing that, we're gonna get to our calls.
It's from it's new canon. It's from The Force Awakens.
Oh, okay.
I guess the first time it appeared, it was first shown in a map in the Star Wars The Force Awakens beginner game from Fantasy Flight 2016.
I wouldn't know anything about that.
And then Jabeam appeared in the comic. Oh, no, it does go back to Dark Horse. I thought so. Jabeam first appeared in the comic Republic 55, written by Hayden Blackman, who also wrote The Force Unleashed. And it was published by Dark Horse in 2003. So yeah, Jabim's been around for 20 years. I knew I recognized it. Yeah. But as far as new canon goes, it's only been around since the Fantasy Flight game from 2016.
All right. Let's do it. The number is on the screen, 708-866-1737. We got our buddy Tyler. He's screening the calls. He's got a full... I saw somebody in the chat saying the phone's not working. That's because all the phone lines are jammed. So as we continue through our callers, please continue to call as the lines open up. Tyler, thanks for being here as always, buddy.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, we got some good callers. Looks like it.
Some great callers. I mean,
right.
Some that were just blowing my mind. So I think it's one of the best calls we've had.
All right. Awesome. We're going to get to it. Thanks. And we'll bring you back on here in a little bit and get your take on the show so far. So let's go to our first call. We've got a Patreon member and a first-time caller. We've got Aiden calling in from Virginia. You're on with Rebel Force Radio and the Kenobi After Show. Hello, Aiden.
Hey, Jason. Hey, J-Mac.
What's going on,
Hi,
buddy?
Aiden.
Yeah, so I just kind of wanted to talk about Quinlan Voss and the name drop.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What about
so
it?
I was just really excited when I heard that. And I was just wondering, do you guys think that we might see other Jedi that we, may have thought were dead, or even new Jedi in the Kenobi series or in Star Wars from now on?
Well, we already had the one Jedi from the first episode, played by Benny Safdie. He was really good. But yeah, familiar Jedi. Gosh, how can they pass up the opportunity to give us at least someone going, oh, you made it.
Yeah.
Hey, what are you doing here? And also to even add more to the speculation, Tala did reveal that they had been smuggling Jedi.
Yep.
So we know there are Jedi out there.
Oh, yeah.
And it would be great to see a familiar face, bring in like a Yarl Poof. Yeah. What do you
Yarl
think?
Poof.
Would you love to see a Yarl Poof?
Yeah, why not? I just want to see the physics, how it all works. Thanks for the call, Aiden. It's a good question. With Quinlan Voss, I thought that his fate was determined as of Revenge of the Sith. There was,
no.
It was not. He was on Boss Pity. I think they said that he had sent transmission. Mm-hmm. No, I apologize. It was actually Plo Koon that we saw blow up in that starfighter. Yeah. In the Jedi.
Yeah,
fighter.
and I think George Lucas may have even shot the death of Quinlan Voss for Revenge of the Sith. I think he was on the planet Kashyyyk, and he was on one of those Imperial walkers, and it got blasted.
Oh, really?
And yeah, so I don't know if he shot that or if it just appeared in the Dark Horse Comics adaptation for Revenge of the Sith, which I think it did. I think they wanted to bring him in because they had been focusing him on Quinlan Voss in those Dark Horse comics. He was like a main player in those comics. And he doesn't come from the comics, so he can actually be spotted sitting at the Mos Espa Cafe when Sebulba gets in the fight with Jar Jar.
Yes.
Over the thing, the Whoopi or whatever. Well, you could see a guy sitting there. It's Quinlan Voss. He's got the yellow mark across the bridge of his nose. He's got the long hair and everything.
He's got this sort of, for those that don't know, he's kind of this barbarian kind of type figure. He reminds me of like a Conan almost. He's got the big hair and the markings. And he was in a couple episodes. I think at least one episode of the Clone Wars. He showed up.
Oh yeah. He was in the episode featuring, I think, the death of Zero the Hutt in that arc.
Wait a minute. No, we know Rebel Force Radio canon is that Zero is alive and well. And,
yeah.
Certainly alive in the felt.
Yeah. But so Quinlan Voss, there has been some speculation by fans since the name drop happened in the show. We have not seen the actor O'Shea Jackson Jr. yet, and we know he is in the show. So it could be. He could be Quinlan Voss.
Yeah, you said, Jim, that, a lot of this stuff, like mentioning Ben having a brother and there being a payoff, the fact that we're establishing Quinlan Voss in in Disney canon makes me think that, maybe this is a character that's going to show up, elsewhere. Maybe they're eyeing this guy as a potential, or this character as a potential, emerging character that could show up in his own series. Who knows? There's a lot of nostalgia for Quinlan Vos because of his long history in the EU. We've got Father Eric from Texas joining us, another Patreon member. Thank you for joining us, Father. Thanks for calling in.
Hey, Chut.
Yeah,
good to talk to you all again.
Nice to talk to you.
Amazing time to be a Star Wars fan, isn't it?
It sure is. It's been a while since we spoke to you last.
Yeah, we talked about Boba Fett back in December, so thanks for having me back.
Yeah, no.
So I have something to bring up to you guys. A lot of people will talk about how the show will elevate details of the original trilogy, but I wanted to point to a way that I think it actually elevates the sequel trilogy. So I remember back with episode 7 thinking that Luke must have been really involved in the naming of Ben Solo, because at the time it seemed that Leia really didn't have a closer relationship with Obi-Wan Ben. But I wonder if we can very much now believe that Leia probably had all these, you have to figure, very personally meaningful childhood memories between her and Obi-Wan Ben in mind when she named her son. You can almost just imagine her telling Han, that old fossil you just couldn't help but roll your eyes at? Well, let me tell you about how cool he was when I met him,
Yeah. I wanted to, thanks for bringing that up, because I'm going to ask you both. I'm going to ask you, Father Eric, and I'm going to ask Jimmy Mack. When Tala is talking to Ben and she refers to him as Obi-Wan, I think the line is something like, I can't imagine you ever making a mistake or something, Obi-Wan. Leia, it seems like she's outside of earshot. Is it possible, what I keep holding on to, is that Leia does not make a connection between Obi-Wan Kenobi and Ben Kenobi? That's the thing that I'm holding on to, perhaps until later in life, because when Luke says, I've got the droids, I got your message, I'm here with Ben Kenobi, and she goes, Ben Kenobi? It just seems, despite the fact that she had sent a hologram message to Obi-Wan Kenobi. What do you think about that, Father?
Yeah, you got to wonder, because I thought that too, and I also think of that moment when Luke rescues her. Because she refers to him as both in the film, so the message is Obi-Wan, but they're in the cell block. She sends
the message to Obi-Wan. She sends the message to Obi-Wan. But all of a sudden, this stranger shows up at her cell door saying he's with Ben.
Right.
He's like, oh my God, from the streaming series. Oh yeah. So
yeah, I like that.
She's not making the connection. She's not making the connection.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also to even add more fuel to this fire, if I can, Father. He never changes his last name. So how common is the name Kenobi in the Star Wars universe? That's something to think about.
Makes you wonder. I mean, Luke Skywalker doesn't even change his name.
Right.
Yeah. Right. Well, I totally, talking about that within the point in time of episode 4, I do wonder, though, as time passes in the intervening years, when it comes time to having your son and naming him, surely somehow you have to imagine from somewhere the connection would have been made. You'd think, maybe not, but you'd kind of think so.
Yeah.
Down the road.
Right.
Down the road, yeah.
Yeah. And the on the chat, what is it? Who is this? Saab. I love these handles. Saab Baggett, no relation to Bob Saget, is mentioning she's also 10, and I have a 9-year-old in my home, and so I'm pretty familiar with the retention abilities of a 9-year-old, 10-year-old. And, they don't always pay attention to everything and every detail. Sometimes it's the things you don't want them to pay attention to that they actually are. So it's an interesting age.
Peter Beiser's calling me out in the chat saying, Jimmy, Ben had no last name. He was just Ben. That's not true at all, because the first thing Luke says when he meets him is, Ben Kenobi, boy, am I glad to see you. So obviously went by Ben Kenobi.
Well,
he wasn't just Ben.
Right. And earlier in the film, he says to Owen, he says, the droids seem to think that they're belong to an Obi-Wan Kenobi. I wonder if he means old Ben. So that, he went by Ben Kenobi.
Yeah.
Okay, right. So, well, there you go. Then Luke would have been the one to, if Leia needed in telling that they were one and the same, you imagine it was Luke at some point.
Right.
Told her, the same guy, because he told me,
Yeah, he might have filled it in. Yeah, it's the same guy. Crazy. I didn't know that.
One more thing quickly. I love
Obi-Wan called Obi-Wan. Hold on 1 second, Father. Rob says she already heard him called Obi-Wan. When did that happen? When they were boarding that ship at the end of the second episode? Was Reva yelling Obi-Wan at him? Was she doing that?
Well, I don't recall. She certainly was, but Leia had ran off pretty far away at that point. I think.
Yeah, I feel like she's always out of earshot whenever he's referred to as Obi-Wan. I could be wrong, but it feels that way. Father, you had one more point you wanted to make. What was that?
Just quickly, we don't need to talk about it. We'll get to the colors, but I really like that moment when Leia asks Obi-Wan, "What does the Force feel like? What is it?" And I thought one of the best explanations I've heard was his analogy of when you're in the dark, it's like when the light turns off, because you wonder for the dark side, it's the complete opposite. The analogy, it's like,
boy, thank you so much for bringing that out. It was not in my notes, but I loved that too. It was a great metaphor. And of course, it takes Father Eric to remind us of that. Thanks, Father. Thanks for calling in. Really appreciate it. Please call back another time. And thanks for being a Patreon. Yeah, Jim, I love that. Have you ever been afraid of the dark? What happens when the light comes on? I feel safe. That's what the Force is like.
Yeah. No, I'm glad Father Eric brought that up. See you in the confessional, Father. All right.
Let's see. Got some super chats here. Our good buddy Peter Bessier says, Meg said to me that this one felt like Star Wars more than even the past shows. A good litmus test of how the non-hardcore fan feels. Thanks, guys. Interesting. Love it. Thank you very much, Peter. You're one of our rocks here at on these live shows. Really appreciate you being here and helping out with the chat. Matthew Rooney says, chut, Star Wars fans, don't forget to thumbs up the live stream. Yes, please, thumbs up the live stream. We've had an average of about 500 people in here. We've got about 200 thumbs up. Got a few thumbs down. How dare you? But so please give us the thumbs up. We'd appreciate it. And thanks, Matthew, for the super chat and reminding people to support us here with the old thumbs up. Thumbs up. We've got Hunter Chambers says, they're doing Vader's dialogue so well. Sounds so Anakin, yet also so Vader at the same time, if that makes sense. I agree, Hunter. I think this is great Vader dialogue, better than what we saw in animation. This is really good. This feels like original trilogy Vader. This is better than, where is Padme? Is she safe? I love the film, but it's not my favorite line. But this really feels like OT Vader. And it could be, as Jim pointed out, the incredible lengths that they're taking to make him really sound like, James Earl Jones at circa 1982, 83.
It's wild. I know they're using James Earl Jones, but what if they're just putting Hayden Christensen behind that and the voice is coming out like that?
We did have someone said in the chat, I don't know if I started, I didn't, but that Jim, that service that you were talking about does the voice Respeecher was in the credits for this episode.
Good. Go out. There you go.
Yeah. Somebody did that research. So. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for taking a look. You know what I can't stand is when the episode ends and they start showing you the credits, then all of a sudden the credits shrink away and you can't read them. And it's like, watch The Phantom Menace now. And then I try to get the credits back.
I hate that. That's the
Let me see the credits.
Yeah. You know what? It really bugs me. Bailey and I were watching.
If I want to watch something, man, I'll watch it.
You know how important the post-credit sequences are in the Marvel films. And nice. Bailey and I are watching the Marvel films, and all of a sudden they do that. And it's a whole hat trick to figure out how do you watch the whole credits. Let me watch the. I'll tell you if I don't want to see the credits. How about that?
That's what I'm thinking.
Here's Bistro Cab.
Streaming
says,
service choosing.
This was the darkest Star Wars has been since episode 3. I think everything about this show
Yes.
is 10 out of 10. Vader is brutal, and I like seeing Ben afraid. Once Qui-Gon connects, we'll get the stoic wise Ben. Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's going to be a transition. We know that. There's going to be a transition.
Yeah. I wonder if Ben and Yoda ever have any sort of communication, because when Yoda says to Obi-Wan at the end of Revenge of the Sith, he's telling him about Qui-Gon Jinn, he says, teach you how to communicate with him, I will.
Mm-hmm.
Did he just then teach him right then and there? I thought they would be sort of like having sort of ESP conversations.
Oh, the training
Yoda on
of...
Dagobah, Ben.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't think it can work that way, primarily because it might ignite a tremor in the Force that Vader could pick up on or something. Like, I think there's always a fear of that. I don't think Force users are necessarily omnipresent, but if they meditate deeply enough, they might be able to pick up wavelengths in the Force that could point them in the direction of a person.
Yeah, I thought that too, and one of the reasons why Yoda chose, it's one of those things I grew up knowing. I don't know where it's sourced, but one of the reasons Yoda chose Dagobah was because he was teeming with life, and it'd be very easy for him to blend in and still be communing with the Force,
right?
Because all living things are connected by the Force. John Lowe writes, lots of nods to Empire Strikes Back, and Kenobi being weak makes perfect sense due to being disconnected from the Force. John, thanks for the super chat. I don't know that I'm getting the sense that Obi-Wan is disconnected from the Force. It could be. He is struggling. We know that he's struggling connecting with Obi-Wan. Jim, something else I wanted to point out.
Not disconnected from the Force. That's I firmly don't believe he's disconnected from the Force.
He is disconnected from the Force. You do believe that? A la Luke in... No, you don't believe that. Okay.
Nope. No. Just because he can brawl so well. and obviously he's not disconnected. He's tapping into the Force. He's trying to communicate with Qui-Gon Jinn. Right. If he had removed himself from that, he wouldn't even attempt to reach out to Qui-Gon through the Force. So it's not like Luke. Ben buried his sabers and he's trying to live a normal life. Yes. But he is still remain connected to the Force itself. Yes.
Saab Baggett is asking on the chat, can I call in? Yes, you can. We got the number right here. You can call 708-866-1737, though I think the switchboard is full. Tyler, does it look like we have a... Yeah, Tyler's nodding. Yes, we got a full switchboard. So let's talk to Mariana from Florida. Mariana's joining us on the line here. Rebel Force Radio and the Obi-Wan Kenobi After Show. Hello, Mariana.
Hey, Chut. How are you guys?
Chut. Doing well. We're seeing things that, as Jimmy Mack said, only our action figures were able to dream of. What's going on with you?
Oh, nothing much. So the last few days and weekend have been super crazy. Let me tell you, I was supposed to go to Celebration this year, but unfortunately due to work and other things, I couldn't go. Yeah. But I was watching the live streams, and let me tell you, when I saw all those panels and the standing ovation and love and praise that Hayden got, it really warmed my heart.
Sure did. They were chanting, Hayden.
Yeah, I saw that. And Ashley finally met Hayden. I was like bursting. My jaw dropped, and I was laughing and just nearly crying when I saw that. So
she was excited. Although I felt bad about Matt. Matt's like, what am I, chopped liver? Matt Lancer. He's like, what do you mean you always wanted to meet Hayden Christensen? I'm your Annie. I'm your Sky guy.
Yeah. Well, he was seen, Matt was seen going off in a car together with Rosario Dawson. I don't know what. No, I'm kidding. I kid. Yeah, two could play at this game, Snips. Yes, Snippy, snip. But yeah, that was a highlight of the convention, that episode 2 panel. I know the entire panel is available to stream online. I haven't had time to watch it yet. I want to make sure it's not just something playing in the background. I'm a very captive audience member.
You will.
So
I always look forward to the post when Jimmy Mack gets back from a Star Wars celebration and he sits in his home studio and just grinds through every hour of the live streams. I love it because then he always pulls great clips and stuff that we didn't even know happened or was said. So look for that.
Yeah, we'll be doing a live stream on Friday night. That's our plan.
Yeah, breaking
news. We'll be
news.
talking about Star Wars Celebration. You'll get a recap. You'll hear about our visit to Galaxy's Edge. You'll hear about what we saw, what we did, who we hung with.
And we're going to be taking calls. So if you were at Celebration, get ready. We want to hear from you. Tell us your Celebration stories and memories. But Mariana, you wanted to talk about Kenobi. So tell us about Kenobi.
Yes. Okay. So there's a lot of great highlights. There's a lot of pros, a lot of cons. But let me tell you, it was so refreshing and awesome to see Hayden in those Jedi robes again.
Oh, yeah.
And let me tell you that when that field, the scene in the field with Ben and Leia, that really, I literally dropped my jaw. I was like, wait, who's that? And then you turn around and, oh my God, it's Anakin. I was
Anakin.
Oh, yeah, and I was like thinking, it gave me like these vibes from this movie called The Passion of Christ, because it reminds me of like the devil, the demon.
Oh yeah, that woman still scares me. That bald woman.
It's like a guilt.
Yeah, she still scares the hell out of me.
Because like it reminded me of that Anakin is like this guilt that Obi-Wan carries with him.
Oh yeah.
You get what I'm feeling?
I do.
So,
I do.
I'm like wondering, will this now play into the last few episodes of this series? Because I really think that what he was just put through at that fight and getting burned and like now suffering, how do you think that he's going to come out of this?
Wow, it's a great question. Thanks for calling in, Mariana. Yeah, I mean, as if Obi-Wan's guilt wasn't ratcheted up enough, Vader confirms it. He says, "What have you become?" He says, "What you made me." So I mean, if Obi-Wan had any thought of being alleviated of this kind of guilt, it was quickly that was quickly vanquished when Vader says, "Yeah, I'm exactly what you made me, old man. You left me there. You should have killed me when you had the chance. Now I'm going to kill you." It's as you say, it's this kind of stuff that we only dreamed of as kids to actually see.
The tit for tat moment.
Yeah.
That was something else. And it had me yelling at my screen,
Mm-hmm.
It's like, no, I don't, what? No. Yeah. All this. I'm very animated watching this show and really, I can't believe what I'm seeing here. And so he pulls Obi-Wan out into the flames. And I thought they were going to pull Ben out and he'd be Alec Guinness, I thought that was
turned his hair white. Is that what
Yeah.
the fire does to you?
Kevin Lyle has a theory that Palpatine will show up and he will give Kenobi a dose of Force lightning that will make his hair white and turn him into Alec Guinness.
Interesting. Wow, I didn't hear
Yeah.
How many beers in was Kevin when he had this theory? A few.
He was enough. Enough. That's how he was enough beers in. Wearing his Dave Prowse pin.
You got to hear more, but you'll hear more about that on Friday.
So that's a fun theory there.
Yeah.
And I've heard some stupid complaints like, oh, he pulled him in the fire, his hair didn't catch on fire, it's just a little part of his robe and stuff. And I mean, maybe Ben was protecting himself with the Force,
Yeah.
Maybe, there's always some sort of in-universe explanation we can come up with, especially when you have something like the Force, which is capable of doing so many different things. There's no like, box that it's in. You can do so much with the Force and use it to explain so many things. So that's my explanation for all of you nitpickers out there who are like, why didn't his hair catch on fire? Why didn't he? You know why? Because of the Force. That's why. Tap into it yourself sometime.
All right. Let's get another caller in here. Let's go to, how about Braden? Wait a minute. We have more Patreons. I'm sorry, Braden. You're going to have to wait because we've got John. John's a Patreon, and Patreons get first preference. Chut, John. How are you? John calling in from New York.
John.
John,
Hey,
I see you're confused. What are you confused about, John?
Me? I don't know that I am confused. But before I get too much into it, I wanted to let Mr. Jimmy Mac know that I recently listened to the latest episode of RFR Q&A, where you did some Star Wars RPG. Good job. I can't wait for more. I had a really, really good time listening to that episode.
Thanks, man.
I love Star Wars.
I'm a little confused. I'm a little confused, but
well, I love Star Wars D&D
I'm committed.
and RPG. Yeah, you did a great job. That was a lot of fun. I can't wait for more adventures of Podcastus.
Podcastus. That's the name of my character.
Podcastus.
All right.
But I don't want to take
Let's
up too much.
Kenobi.
I don't want to take up too much time. I know you guys got a lot of callers. First thing I want to really quickly say is that what a way to confirm that the voice of James Earl Jones is in Kenobi with the episode. It's like they kept such a tight lip on it. They could have announced it at Celebration, but they didn't. It like the second you hear it, you know it is James Earl Jones, the original Darth Vader himself. And they just didn't. I loved how they just kept a lid on it. They didn't announce it, and the way they did it was with the episode itself, and it was just it was amazing. It really struck fear. The other thing I wanted to say real quick is I share you guys' confusion over just kind of like some of the backlash for just the show. Like there's a lot of people, like I love the way you put it, Mr. Jimmy Mac, how, people are just peeing in the pool. It's like, look, not a lot, nothing's perfect, but this show is pretty darn close to it. It's really close to perfect. It's head and shoulders above Boba Fett, and just a little bit better than The Mandalorian. And so I'm just floored. I don't know where this is coming from, because the show is really well done. It is Star Wars to the T. I saw somebody online. Somebody commented to me and gave me, nobody in the Rebel Force radio community, but on Reddit, somebody said, "Oh, you like this show? You like 10-year-olds giving you cringy jokes? That's funny to you?" And I said, "Well, first of all, that's on brand for 10-year-olds. First of all,
yeah.
Second of all, it's on brand for Star Wars. Like Star Wars is, great at really corny jokes."
I don't know what corny jokes they're even talking about, to be honest with you. As I say, I live with a 9-year-old, not far from a 10-year-old, and it's amazing what comes out of their mouths. And especially, if they are, force sensitive. And what I really love about what we're seeing is, look, we all see Luke's progression in the Force. Now, we don't see him as a 10, 11, 12-year-old or whatever. But I like the fact that this show is establishing that Leia is, I guess to use the in-universe term now, showing some Force abilities. And so I think it's really good, and I think it's important to show her as somebody who is showing Force abilities prior to her conversation with Luke on Endor, because as a kid, I always thought that she only became aware of this larger universe when Luke said, the Force is strong in my family. I have it. My father has it. My sister has it. And so this is establishing the fact that she is special, and she is showing at a younger age. I don't really know. I don't like to get into the habit of telling fans what they should and shouldn't like. I really don't. And that's never been our practice here. And in fact, Jimmy Mac has been championing this just enjoy Star Wars thing. Look, if you like it, enjoy it. If not, move on. There will be another series. There will be another something Star Wars that you might like. But man, oh man, if it is hard for me to imagine a Star Wars fan who doesn't watch the series and isn't excited. I don't know how else, or what else you're looking for. I don't know how it can live up to the fantasies of your imagination, but this thing I feel like is really delivering. Are there nits to be picked? Of course.
I happen to agree.
But overall, this is the stuff that we have been dreaming of for decades. I don't see it either. I really am confused by it.
Well, some people just want Star Wars to fail. Some people have become so wrapped up in criticizing Star Wars. Some people have just actually established themselves as personalities who criticize Star Wars, that they've really molded themselves into people who want Star Wars to fail. And I mean, that comes naturally with any success story. There's always going to be somebody there hoping that the success comes to an end. And I think we're dealing with that now culturally. Thanks to the amplification via social media and what have you. So many people want to be the smartest person in the room. So many people have committed to rooting for Star Wars to fail that I think they're missing the big picture. Now, on the other side of the coin, I've heard of fans who swore off the franchise after The Last Jedi. Those fans are coming back in droves thanks to Kenobi. So, as we like to say here, you know, opinions are like...
keep it clean.
They're everywhere. And everyone has one. And, you know, I mean, we try to keep it positive here. I mean, we're not always just like jumping up and down for everything that has Star Wars on it. We talk about it primarily from a place of love and everything. But I mean, you know, there's nothing wrong with voicing your opinion when something's bad. Just I just have a hard time connecting with you, fan to fan, if all you're going to do is look for Star Wars weaknesses and cheer for its failure, especially in the wake of a story like this.
Yeah.
Which, like I said, has been 45 years in the making and takes you back to the absolute core of Star Wars. I think Deborah Chow is doing an amazing job. I see Kathleen Kennedy and Michelle Rejwan as executive producers of the show. I think they're doing a fantastic job. Ewan McGregor is doing a great job. I mean, it's just, this is a true success. I really think Star Wars is back with this series. I really think Star Wars is back, baby. And that's how impressed I am. And I really feel confident that I'm not just like drooling over the new toy or, you know, the hot property of the moment. I feel so much integrity is in place with this series, and this episode alone was one of the best Star Wars things I've ever seen. I'll put it up there with some of my favorite moments in Star Wars. The emotion that I felt watching this, that's the real key. That's the real key. The stunning moments, the shock I felt at times, the horror, the dread. It was all there. I mean, this has everything I've wanted from Star Wars drama is here in this episode. It's everything I've wanted. Plus great acting too. Ewan McGregor's great in this.
Oh, he's fantastic. As I say, I was watching the first episode again with the whole family, and I was surprised because, you know, I'd mentioned that my son, my 9-year-old son, he loves The Mandalorian, absolutely adores The Mandalorian and Grogu. And then when we were watching Book of Boba Fett, he kind of tuned out until we got into those Mandalorian episodes, and then he was back in. And I wasn't sure how he was going to react to this. But when they kicked it off with the kids in the Jedi Temple, you know, he was over there playing with his Rubik's cubes, and as soon as that scene came on, he was in, and he never stopped watching. I was watching because I've seen it enough times. I was watching his reaction, and he really stuck with this. And so I think that, you know, seeing Ewan McGregor, I mean, you know, since he was a little kid, I've been playing those movies in the house. And so seeing Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan Kenobi, it's a familiar face, familiar voice, all of that. Seeing young Luke, you know, on top of the Lars Homestead, you know, playing Pod Racer or whatever it was. And then having that connection with Leia at that age is doing a lot. It's going a long way. So I think the younger generation is responding to this, at least as far as in my household it is.
Hey, there are
Yeah.
two things that really reminded me of the 80s today. The Darth Vader's voice, James Earl Jones, takes me back to 1980, Empire Strikes Back. And your comment that Parker plays with Rubik's Cubes takes me back to 1980, man.
Oh, man. He's all about the Rubik. He's got Rubik's Cubes,
wild. I had no idea
triangles.
that stuff was even
Oh, my
still
God.
out there.
He's got a whole collection of Rubik's things, and he has solved all of them. All right,
Billy Mack could show him some tips.
Oh, okay. We got to get into
about Billy.
I did not know that about Billy. All right. We got to get into that. Here's a super chat from John Rossi. He says, was a great episode. Terrifying. Qui-Gon is going to come to Obi-Wan and give him the strength for a rematch. It seems like you're on the same wavelength as Jimmy is with that one.
Hey, remember Ian McDiarmid was inferring that he could be in Kenobi? His presence would be felt. Remember he was saying that in Nashville? We did hear his voice in the very beginning of the first episode during that episode or that Order 66 flashback. At the very beginning, you hear his voice in the background saying, execute Order 66. Execute. He repeats it like 3 times.
Right, it echoes.
So we have heard his presence on this show. I don't know if they're kicking back anything for him.
I think
using
it's
that
going to be more than
dialogue,
that. I think
I do too. I do too.
Yeah.
But I just want to point out, technically,
he's
we
right
have
so
already
far.
noted his presence. We've heard his voice.
Here's a super chat from Jill716. He says, Naja calls him Obi-Wan. I don't know who Naja is. Is that Tala?
That's Kumail Nanjiani, isn't it?
Okay. Yes, that's right. That's the charlatan Jedi. Naja calls him Obi-Wan when they part in front of Leia. I don't see why it's a big deal anyway. You can interpret her A New Hope message that way, but in my opinion, it's hardly a slam dunk. I guess it's okay. I don't know. I'm still holding on to it. Sorry.
Hey, listen, Star Wars dialogue's been contradicting itself. When you even think back to Leia in Return of the Jedi, when she said, Luke said, what do you remember about your mother? Your real mother. And she says she remembers a couple things, not much really.
Right.
But I mean, how would Leia, so we've come up with these excuses over the years.
Right.
Like, Padme made a force imprint on Leia when she was born, so she'll have those memories or some kind of stuff. In the novelization for Return of the Jedi, there was a mention about hiding with Leia in a crate or something. She had this one strong memory. You don't remember that?
No, I'm gonna have to go back and look at that.
I got this in front of me.
The annotated screenplay. Are you talking about
there's
in there or in the novelization?
No, it was actually in the novelization. I'm just wondering if it would appear here in this book. And I mean, it was just right in front of me. So
while you do that, I got to throw this up here. Maisie's World says, everyone see Ryan Johnson at the end, the dead pilot. Was that Ryan Johnson?
Wait, who is the dead pilot? Was that Ryan Johnson?
I didn't notice this. Is that true?
That was not Ryan Johnson. Come on.
I don't know.
Was it? If it was, that's kind of a funny in joke.
It is.
That's like an inside joke. Like that it represents the dead pilot there at the end of the Underground Railroad, and also represents the status of Ryan's trilogy at this moment.
Indeed.
That is a doornail.
Super chat from Astro.
How many times does Kathleen Kennedy have to say that they're not going to focus on trilogies anymore?
Yeah, I don't know.
And then the next question, well, when is Ryan doing his trilogy? She's like, dummies, didn't you hear what I just said? No trilogies.
Here's Astro McJeremy. Says, first time super chatter, huge R2D2 fan. Wondering if you guys caught him in the first episode. I know it won't happen, but hoping for a small explanation about the connection between R2 and Kenobi going into A New Hope. R2 is in the first episode?
Briefly on Alderaan, you see, you get a glimpse of 3PO, and then you get a glimpse of R2 in the background.
I did not
3PO,
see
they actually
R2.
focused the camera on. Yeah, R2 was back
I did
there.
not see R2. Okay. Hoping for a small explanation about the connection between R2 and Kenobi going into A New Hope.
What's the connection between R2 and Kenobi?
Well, I don't remember owning a droid.
Hello, my friend. Hello there.
Hello, little friend.
My friend. Hello, little friend. I like that better than hello there. I'm going to start saying hello, little friend all the time.
Hello, my
I'm
little
going to do that
friend.
I should have said that to Grievous. Hello, little friend. Yeah. Oh, it would have pissed him off so much.
All right, we got.
But wait, hold on. Let's address that for a second.
Okay.
Ben never owned R2.
Right.
That's not part of the history. It was just what Luke had interpreted from R2, in 3PO. R2 was saying he has to go to Ben Kenobi, And so Luke, I think, assumed that the droid belonged to Ben Kenobi or Obi-Wan Kenobi. When you're going around saying something about some Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
Well, of course I know it's me. I don't ever recall owning a droid before. Well, that's because you never owned it. It's just like Luke is jumping to a conclusion.
Yeah, and I also think Ben is really watching every word that he says. He's being very meticulous about this interaction. Because you get the sense that Ben probably doesn't know or wonders every time he comes into contact with Luke, is this the moment? Is this the moment I take him over the precipice? Right. Or is this just another interaction? Let's go to Patreon.
We'll have to see a moment. We'll have to see a moment before this series wraps up where Ben does deliver that T-16 Skyhopper model to Luke.
Yes.
He has to get it. Yeah.
Yes. Here's a Patreon and a first-time caller. This is Corey from Minnesota. Hello, Corey. You're on with Rebel Force Radio. Thanks for your patience. Thanks for waiting. What's going on?
Hey, oh my gosh, what an episode. My head is spinning. I can't believe what we just saw today.
Yeah, us too.
I had to go for a run and sort my thoughts out afterwards. But hey, I'll keep it quick. First time caller, but I've been listening to you guys for a really long time, ever since before The Force Awakens. So thank you guys so much for all you do for us in the community. And sorry if this has already been touched on. I kind of joined the stream a little late, but
it's okay.
I just had a few thoughts about Qui-Gon. We all know he's coming, right? He's been Obi-Wan's, mentioned him 3 times in each of the 3 episodes. He featured a lot in the prequel recap at the beginning. What if it's been talked about how in A New Hope Ben is so much more at peace. He's so much more sure of himself as opposed to what we're seeing now. What if Qui-Gon is kind of the key to that? What if Qui-Gon is the one who he's going to appear to Obi-Wan and say, look, you got to forgive yourself, man. You got to forgive yourself and move on, and maybe even apologize to Obi-Wan for making him promise to train Anakin.
I don't think so, because Qui-Gon was right. Anakin was the chosen one. So I don't think Qui-Gon necessarily has to apologize to Ben. That would indicate that the spirit of Qui-Gon Jinn has been carrying some guilt.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that guilt transfers into the netherworld.
Right.
I don't know. Because that's like some sort of spiritual enlightenment. You wouldn't feel guilty at that point.
No,
but maybe now
I feel like that Obi-Wan, I think it has less to do with Qui-Gon and more to do with what's to come with his next interaction with Vader. I think that what's going to happen is that that Ben is going to get a vision or some sort of signal that is going to make him more and more confident about what his role in this unfolding saga is. He's going to approach it with characteristic bravery, confidence, all of that, and he's going to know that things are going to work out for the best. I think that once he realizes what his final role is in all of this, and I mean his final kind of corporeal role, what we see him do in episode 4, this sacrifice that he makes, I think that's when he's going to sort of become the confident Ben Kenobi, when he knows his role is really just to usher in the inevitable and the destiny that we hear talk about in the original trilogy. So that's my feeling, and it's very true that Qui-Gon could play a role in that he must sort of submit to the living force, which is something I think Obi-Wan still hasn't quite done, which is what Qui-Gon did so well. When you see that with him sort of taking in Jar Jar Binks and then taking in Anakin Skywalker, just sort of the living force is what is guiding him. And I feel like the living force is like his intuition, his gut, as opposed to his intellect.
I wonder if connecting with Qui-Gon Jinn will also give Obi-Wan insight into like where this all is going to end up. Specifically speaking, strike me down and I'll become more powerful than you can possibly imagine. Where does Ben Kenobi find the confidence to make a statement like that? He has to discover that somewhere along the road. And I think it's going to come via communicating with Qui-Gon naturally. So we'll see how that all plays out.
Yeah.
And, you know, Yoda is still out there.
Yes, he is.
And he might be able to offer some insight to Obi-Wan too. I mean, how wild would this be if before he goes back to Tatooine, Ben makes a stop off on Dagobah? Go check in on an old friend.
Wow.
Yeah.
That would be something. He does seem awfully at home when he sits on that log in Return of the Jedi. Like maybe that log.
Yeah, like he'd been there before.
Oh, it's my old
That's his favorite log.
Yeah, he likes that. Let's go with Rob from Wisconsin. Rob, Patreon member. Welcome back to Rebel Force Radio. Hello.
Chet, gentlemen. How's it going?
Oh, doing real well. How could we not be doing well? This is the kind of stuff we only dreamed we'd be talking about.
Yeah.
Exactly. You pretty much touched on everything that I had planned, so I will go with my backup topic. Sorry, right. Tyler.
Tyler's grimacing right now. Our call screener extraordinaire.
Yeah. When Obi-Wan and Leia are having their conversation in the back of Frack's transport.
Yes.
And he mentions seeing just flashes of his original family. He mentions the baby brother, and that makes me wonder if they're going to bring back and make canon the idea of Owen being Obi-Wan's brother.
Whoa. What? You just blew my mind with that, man.
Wow.
Holy crap.
I posted that in the Facebook group, and there's been some discussion on it and pushback on like about the different name and Owen looks a little bit young to be the brother from that time period, but I'm sticking with it.
Boy, that is a cool idea, Rob. We know that the original novelization by quote-unquote George Lucas did talk about Ben Kenobi as being the brother of Owen Lars. From
the annotated screenplays.
Yes.
It was decided during story meetings for Return of the Jedi that Uncle Owen was in fact Ben's brother. Owen always resented Ben for imposing Luke on them, and now Ben is taking the blame for what is happening and is feeling guilty. Dude, you blew my mind with that.
Good job, Rob.
You blew my mind. Wow, Rob. Rob gets call of the day for that
one. All right. While we're reeling from that, let's talk to Eric from Nashville. Eric is also a Patreon member. We want to make sure that we make good on our promise and get to our Patreons at the head of the queue. Eric, what's going on?
How you doing, fellas?
How you doing?
Had a couple of Colt 45s while I was waiting in line. Feeling good. No, seriously, I'll get to it. I heard this theory from Josh from Den of Nerds, so I'll give him credit. But the robot I wanted to talk about, he's a big, beefy guy, and having that hammer behind his back was a very kind of human trait. Josh thinks that might be Wrecker in a suit, kind of like Echo did in Bad Batch, impersonating the droid. Kind of a convenient way for him to not speak as well, as they would recognize the clone's voice. What do you think about that?
Could it be Ricka? Ricka?
Ricka? He said
Ricka?
Wrecker or Rex, but shaped like Wrecker.
Thanks, man. That's a good call. No, it's a good idea. So I did notice that. So he had the hammer in the back, and it was a very human, non-droid kind of thing to do, especially when Tala is sort of really lowering our expectations on what the capabilities of a mining droid like this might be capable of. You know, they're not really into speech, things like that. Now, that's the second theory I've heard tonight about there being a human inside this droid covering. One theory is that it's Quinlan Voss. Another theory says it's Ricka. He kind of has the shape of a Ricka, but I don't think so. I'm not feeling Ricka on this one. But it's a fun theory.
I'm not feeling it either.
Yeah.
You know, the Bad Batch is one thing. Kenobi is another thing. I like the idea of Quinlan Voss potentially being inside that droid plating just because it's been foreshadowed. But Wrecker, I don't see Wrecker making the transition to live action. I just don't.
Yeah.
I really don't. He seems like very much a cartoony character to me, you know?
Yeah, I get you. But boy, oh boy, we're going to talk about it on our Celebration after show. And what we're hearing about that Ahsoka trailer and it being just a gateway into Rebels cast or the Rebels series becoming live action. You never know. You never know. We got Braden calling in from Indiana. Braden's a first-time caller. Hello, Braden. Thanks for your patience. I think you were one of the first ones in line. How are you?
I'm doing all right. You made me drop my Lego Mandalorian helmet earlier whenever you said my name, but I understand the Patreon people.
Well, we got to get the Patreons in first. That's a big perk of being a Patreon community. But we're glad that
there's like a pile
there.
of Legos on the floor now. It's just like Legos everywhere.
They're swept up now. But stepped on a few. It's fine.
What you got for us, bud?
But so earlier on Facebook, I woke up at 5 a.m. before work to watch the episode. And I was seeing some people in the Facebook page post about somewhat of music being left out of the episode. And I understand doing something different. I just thought, and I want to hear your opinion, but I just wanted to say what I said earlier. I thought that it was really neat to kind of leave out the music that we, know and love from all the movies. I thought it was an awesome intro into the savage nature of the new Vader. Kind of like to show the viewers and Obi-Wan what he's turned into since this is his first actual viewing of him. So there's the build-up whenever he's kind of walking up, kind of like Friday the 13th style. And then there's silence. And then Vader comes in. And instead of having the Imperial March, we have him walk through and the music builds, silence, and then all of a sudden you hear the force power of him doing the force choke on the man. You hear the son freaking out, and then you see him, the dad collapse, grab the son, and then neck just snaps. I thought that was insane. And that's just kind of like we saw in Rogue One. Yeah, we did have the Imperial March, a much slower tone. However, I think this was such a crazy way to establish this new side of Anakin Skywalker that we've never seen.
Yeah, it's a great point. It's the music. I got to be honest. I keep, every time there's a new episode, I keep trying to think if I can challenge myself to hum the Obi-Wan theme song. And I'm struggling a little bit. The Obi-Wan theme, despite it being composed by, the maestro himself, John Williams, It's not as memorable and as hummable as like The Mandalorian. Even the Boba Fett theme song was a little bit more memorable than this one. So I'm struggling a bit. But I'm so enraptured in the story that I haven't really had a chance to go back and just watch it and think about the music. Jim, is there anything that's sticking out, from the Ludwig Göransson work here? Anything jumping out at you?
It's not Ludwig. It's not Ludwig. Ludwig Göransson. I'm sorry, I said his name wrong. It's not him.
Who is
There's
it?
another composer.
This is not Ludwig? I thought this was Ludwig.
No, it's like Natalie something or another. And then there's another guy who did some work adapting the Obi-Wan theme. But yeah, I'm sorry, I don't have the names right in front of me. But I think that the music is fine. During Clone
Natalie
Wars,
Holt. Sorry, not Natalie Holt.
Natalie Holt. That's it. That's it. I think the music is fine. Do I want to hear the the oxygen and all of that stuff? Yeah, I mean, I used to complain about that a lot during the Clone Wars era, and I think the reason I complained about it so much during Clone Wars is because they purposefully went way outside the box as far as your traditional Star Wars orchestration, that big classical music sound with the big orchestra. They would go off in all kind of different areas with the Clone Wars music for the first few seasons until they really did, Kevin Kiner settled down into a more orchestrated feel, a la John Williams. And I think Natalie Holt is approaching it with that same orchestra feel as John Williams, but we're not getting all of those familiar music cues.
Right.
And remember, it's not always a good thing to keep going back to those old music cues. Remember The Last Jedi? Princess Leia was frozen in space and she flew back to the ship, used the Force to pull her popsicle ass back to the ship. I only say that sounds like something Carrie Fisher would say, popsicle ass. But frozen in space, right?
Yes.
And so she pulled back to the ship. But they crank up the Leia theme at that moment. And to me, it came off as terribly cringy. Now, sure, the combination of the Leia music with the weird visual of her Mary Poppins fly through space was, it wasn't helped by the visuals at all. But I'm just telling you, that's an example where you take that iconic music and misplace it. It could do more harm than good.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah, so I understand the restraint with this. I think Natalie Holt is doing a great job with the soundtrack because it sounds like Star Wars to me. It has, maybe it's not the oxygen, but it's the atmosphere at least. Yeah. And it hasn't really caused me any sort of concern or anything. Do I think that the series will utilize some of that classic Williams soundtrack music before it's all said and done? Absolutely, I do. But maybe it'll be more effective if they really carefully pick and choose when they do it.
All right, boy, there's just never enough time. Sorry if we didn't get your calls. Look, we've got a few more episodes of Obi-Wan Kenobi left, like 3 more episodes. So hopefully we will get to that and we'll get to your calls. Appreciate you all taking the time and hanging with us. As I say, there's just never enough time. But want to check in with our buddy Tyler. Tyler did a great job screening the calls. A lot of great callers tonight. But wanted to check in with you. What are your thoughts about this episode? And you having the same experience as Mac and me, where this is sort of a continuation of your Star Wars celebration. At least it feels that way.
Yeah, to go right from the Mando experience and Disneyland on Thursday to this, it's just been like boom, 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 nonstop. And a ton of great callers tonight. A lot of people we didn't get to. And you guys asked me earlier, and I was really loving talking to everyone. But what I thought of most when I was watching this episode is that Padme quote where she says that there's good in him. There's good in him because you're seeing him snap necks, really seeing like the brutal Vader, and then you just get it makes Luke turning him all more powerful, and it's kind of like that Rogue One aspect where it takes something in it you thought you knew and it turns it on its head, and I love that.
Yes,
and yeah, the other thing I thought of is Vader saying, "You should have killed me when you had the chance," and just. I don't know if that's a death wish. One of the callers brought that up, but it's for me, it's like they don't have the guts to kill each other. Even right when Obi-Wan's on the Death Star, he sort of becomes one with the Force before that lightsaber goes through him. So it's a great look into the dynamic of their relationship, and I'm loving it. I'm loving looking at all these little bits.
Yeah, that's a really I love that idea that Vader he's the guy. The most feared person is the one with nothing to lose, and that's Vader. Vader has nothing to lose, and is it kind of a death wish? Really, really cool. Well, Tyler, as always, you are such a great help to us here on the show. We couldn't do it without you. Thank you, and thanks for hanging with all the callers. Sorry, we got a whole lineup of callers we didn't get to, but again, we've got more Obi-Wan Kenobi and Rebel Force Radio after show next week. So Tyler, we'll see you next time. Thanks, buddy. Always a pleasure.
Thanks.
And Jimmy Mack, anything we didn't get to? It seems pretty thorough, but final thoughts about Kenobi and Part 3.
Final thoughts about this incredible expansion of the Star Wars mythology. I mean, I can't wait for next week, really. I don't have too many final thoughts. Let me take a look here. Vindrium was the material that they were mining on Mapuzo, and that was that flammable material that Vader dumped out on the quarry floor there. Vindrium. I just thought, it's fun to know what it was. But yeah, my notes are all... there was a quality kill in this episode that I enjoyed very much when the stormtrooper fell into the laser gate. That was a quality kill.
I forgot about that one. Yes.
Yeah. Brutal Darth Vader. I found it very interesting that the Empire is hunting Force-sensitive children, because we've only had little glimpses of Palpatine and his desire to maybe even raise like a Force-sensitive army or something, because you go back to that episode of the Clone Wars when he had that Sith nursery, and I think something similar to that.
I really want them to build on that because it's so good. Yeah.
So we got a little bit more information about what the Empire is up to. It's not just Jedi they're hunting anybody who shows dexterity with the Force. And so that really puts Leia and Luke in constant danger, even though that they're living a sheltered life. And it also explains why Owen really does anything to prevent Luke from finding his inner potential with the Force, is because that puts him in immediate danger. Whether people know that he's Anakin Skywalker's son or not, he's showing Force potential, so the Empire might come knocking at the door. So that to me raises the stakes as far as the Organa family raising Leia, the Lars family raising Luke. It's a little bit more of a dangerous challenge for them than I had probably ever considered. So all in all, what an episode. I mean, I'm still just walking on clouds after seeing that. And when this show is over, I'm going to watch it again because it was that good. This is something that I've wanted to see since 1977, really. The big falling out. I mean, sure, we saw the origin of Vader in Revenge of the Sith, but this stuff is so strong with the character connections between these two and their internal struggles they're going through post Revenge of the Sith. That's all on full display. This is just a lot to sink our teeth into. And it's going to change the way we look at certain chapters of the Star Wars saga, I believe. I always enjoy that when new information is revealed to us, especially via live action, when we can go back and watch those films we've seen 500 times and see it in a different light. That's really important, I think, to the growth and longevity of Star Wars as we move forward, is making sure that that relationship works with our rewatches of all those iconic films over the years. You know, as long as that keeps clicking, then, like I said before, Star Wars is back. I'm really feeling that way. Star Wars is back. They really found something special here with this Obi-Wan series, and it sure has given me a lot of confidence in what's going to be coming out of Lucasfilm moving into the future. Kitster, not in this episode.
All right. That'll do it for us this week. We'll be back next week with another episode of the OBI-WAN Kenobi series, as well as Rebel Force Radio's Obi-Wan Kenobi After Show. Don't forget, this Friday, we'll be back with another special live episode of Rebel Force Radio. We're going to be capping Star Wars Celebration. We really want to hear from you. If you were at Celebration, we're going to get your firsthand accounts. It was really a super fun week. You'll get to hear from us and what our experiences were, not just at Celebration, but also at Disneyland and Galaxy's Edge and riding some of those rides. I held it together. I did hold it together, but it's just a thrill. As a 44-year-old veteran of Star Wars fandom, I'm just excited the fact that there's always something new to bring you back and keep you excited about this franchise. As we say here, Rebel Force Radio, just enjoy Star Wars. If this isn't your thing, move on. The next thing will be, hopefully the next thing will be something that you like. But in the meantime, don't ruin it for other people. If we're having a good time, we're having a good time. And I, for one, am having a great time. So thank you to Tyler Page, our call screener. Of course, Jimmy Mack. We'll be back, as I say, this Friday, live Rebel Force Radio post-celebration show. And then next week with the Obi-Wan Kenobi After Show. So we'll see you next time. For Rebel Force Radio, I'm Jason.
I'm Jimmy Mack.
And remember,
the Force will be with you, always.
I think
that's all, folks.
I think it ended.
Always.
I think the loop ended. Let's play it again.